A human shared water with a thirsty alien. By morning, his cabin was encircled by 200 tribal warriors. Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead as the twin sons of New Haven began their descent toward the horizon. The frontier colony stretched out before him in patches of cleared land and dense purple forests. His small cabin stood alone at the edge of the settlement, exactly how he liked it. Peace and quiet were luxuries most colonists did not understand, but Marcus valued them above all else. He grabbed the metal bucket from his porch and walked toward the well he had dug 6 months ago. The water here tasted better than anything from the colony's central system. Something about the mineral content made it sweet and refreshing. Marcus whistled a simple tune as he lowered the bucket down into the darkness. The rope went slack. Water splashed below. Marcus began pulling the bucket back up, his arms working in steady rhythm. He had done this same task hundreds of times. It was part of his evening routine, something peaceful after long days of surveying unexplored territories. A sound made him stop. It came from near the tree line about 30 feet away. A soft scraping noise like something being dragged across dirt. Marcus set the bucket on the stone edge of the well and looked toward the purple trees. The forest was growing dark as evening approached. "Hello," Marcus called out. "Anyone there?" The colonial authorities had warned all settlers about the Vakari, the native people of New Haven. They were described as dangerous and territorial. Most humans had never seen one up close. The Vakari avoided the settlements, and the colonists were told to do the same. Marcus heard the sound again. This time it was weaker, almost like a whimper. He grabbed his portable light from his belt and switched it on. The beam cut through the gathering darkness. Something moved near the trees. Marcus walked slowly toward the movement, his heart beating faster. He was not a brave man by nature, but curiosity pushed him forward. As he got closer, the light revealed a figure collapsed on the ground. It was an alien. The creature was unlike anything Marcus had seen in person. Its body was lean and covered in scales that shimmered between green and brown. Intricate markings covered its arms and face, painted or tattooed in deep red and black patterns. The alien was roughly humanoid in shape, but clearly not human. Its head was more angular, with large eyes that were currently closed. A long tail lay motionless behind it. The alien's chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. Its scales looked dull and dry. Marcus noticed the creature's lips were cracked and bleeding slightly. Dehydration. Marcus had seen this condition before in animals and even a few careless colonists who ventured too far without proper supplies. This alien was dying of thirst. He should walk away. That would be the smart choice, the safe choice. Colonial regulations were clear about contact with the Vakari. They were considered hostile. Approaching one could be dangerous. Marcus should report this to the authorities and let them handle it. But as Marcus stood there, looking at the suffering creature, he could not make his feet move away. This was a living being in pain. It did not matter what species it was or what the regulations said. Marcus had always believed that some things were more important than rules. He ran back to the well and pulled up the bucket of fresh water. The liquid sloshed as he carried it carefully toward the alien. Marcus knelt down beside the creature, setting the bucket on the ground. "Hey," Marcus said softly. "Can you hear me?" They were golden-colored with vertical pupils, like a cat's eyes. The creature looked at Marcus with an expression that seemed confused and frightened. Marcus reached for his water canteen on his belt. It was easier to control than the bucket. He unscrewed the cap and held it out toward the alien. "Water," Marcus said, gesturing to his own mouth. "You need water." The alien reached out with a shaking hand. Marcus helped support the creature's head as it drank. The alien took small sips at first, then longer drinks. Water spilled down its chin, but Marcus did not pull the canteen away. He let the creature drink as much as it needed. When the canteen was empty, Marcus refilled it from the bucket. The alien drank again, this time more slowly. Color seemed to return to its scales. Its breathing became stronger and more regular. "That's better," Marcus said, though he doubted the alien understood his words. "Just take it easy." Marcus understood. It was a gesture of gratitude. "You're welcome," Marcus said with a small smile. He helped the alien drink more water and brought some fruit from his cabin. The creature ate slowly, its strength gradually returning. Marcus noticed the markings on the alien's body were more elaborate than simple decoration. They seemed to tell a story or indicate some kind of status. As the stars began appearing in the sky above, the alien stood up. It was taller than Marcus by several inches. The creature looked at him again and repeated the gesture, hand to chest, then to Marcus. Then it turned and walked toward the forest. Marcus watched it disappear into the purple trees. He gathered his bucket and canteen and walked back to his cabin, feeling satisfied with his choice. He had helped someone in need. It was as simple as that. Marcus ate a simple dinner and prepared for bed. Tomorrow would bring another day of surveying work. He needed rest. As he lay down, he thought briefly about the alien but decided not to report the encounter. There was no harm done. He had given water to a thirsty traveler, nothing more. Marcus closed his eyes and fell asleep, having no idea that his simple act of kindness would change everything by morning. Something felt wrong. He could not identify what exactly, but his instincts told him something had changed during the night. The normal morning sounds were absent. No birds singing, no wind rustling through the purple trees, just quiet. He sat up in bed and rubbed his eyes. Sunlight filtered through the small window of his cabin. It looked like a normal morning on New Haven. Marcus stood and stretched, his back stiff from sleeping on the simple mattress. He walked to the window and looked outside. His heart stopped. Warriors surrounded his cabin, dozens of them, no more than dozens. They stood in organized circles around his home, each one armed and completely still. Marcus pressed his face closer to the window, his breath catching in his throat. He counted quickly. 50, 70, 100. The warriors extended back into rows he could barely see. They were Vakari. Each warrior wore traditional armor made from some kind of hardened leather and metal plates. They carried weapons that looked both primitive and deadly. Long spears with curved blades, staffs with sharp edges on both ends. Bows that glowed faintly with some kind of energy. Every warrior stood at attention, facing his cabin. Marcus stepped back from the window, his mind racing. This was because of last night. It had to be. He had helped that alien, and now an army had come for him. Perhaps the creature had been important. Perhaps Marcus had broken some law he did not understand. He looked around his cabin desperately. The emergency beacon was on the shelf near the door. If he activated it, colonial forces would come, but that might start a fight. These warriors had not attacked yet. They were just standing there. Marcus took several deep breaths, trying to calm himself. He had to think clearly. Running would be useless. Fighting was impossible. His only option was to go outside and face whatever was coming. He walked to the door and placed his hand on the handle. His palm was sweating. Marcus wiped it on his pants and gripped the handle again. He opened the door slowly and stepped outside. 200 faces turned toward him. Marcus raised his hands above his head in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. The morning sun was bright and warm, a sharp contrast to the fear coursing through his body. He stood on his porch, looking at the sea of warriors surrounding his home. The circle of Vakari in front of him parted. A large figure walked forward, moving with authority and power. This alien was bigger than the others, wearing elaborate armor decorated with the same red and black patterns Marcus had seen on the creature from last night. A long cloak flowed behind him. He carried no weapon but did not need one. His presence alone commanded respect. Behind this leader walked the alien Marcus had helped. The creature looked healthier now, its scales bright and its movements strong. It wore similar markings to the large warrior, though less elaborate. The leader stopped 10 feet from Marcus's porch. He reached to his belt and pulled out a small device. When he spoke, the device translated his words into English. "Human," the device said in a mechanical voice. "I am Vakish, chieftain of the Redstone clan. You have met my son, Kresh. I just wanted to help. That is all." He collapsed, believing he would die alone under foreign trees. Humans, who we are taught to fear and hate, gave him water from his own supply, gave him food from his own stores, asked for no payment, expected no reward. The sound of 200 weapons moving together filled the air like thunder. Marcus flinched, certain this was the end, but the warriors did not attack. Instead, they struck the ground with their weapons 3 times in rhythm. Boom, boom, boom. The sound echoed across the settlement. Vakish stepped closer to Marcus's porch. "By Vakari law, a life debt must be honored. You saved my son, you saved my heir, you saved the future of my clan." The same gesture Kresh had made last night. "You are now Corvathan," Vakish said. "Friend of the tribe, brother to the Redstone clan, your life is our life, your home is sacred ground." His translator was smaller but worked the same way. You showed kindness when you could have shown hate. You gave help when you could have given nothing. This is rare. This is precious. Instead, they walked to positions around his property. They drove their staffs into the ground in a wide circle around the cabin. Each staff was planted with ceremony and care. These mark your territory as protected, Vakish explained. No Vakari will harm you. No Vakari will enter without permission. You are under our protection now. I just did what was right. There is more we must discuss. The colonial leaders should know of this bond. Perhaps your kindness can build a bridge between our peoples. As the warriors finished their work and began to leave, Marcus noticed movement in the distance. Colonial vehicles were approaching fast. Someone must have seen the gathering and reported it. The authorities were coming, and they would not understand what had just happened. Marcus looked at Vakish with worried eyes. The chieftain followed his gaze and saw the approaching vehicles. He nodded slowly. Now, Vakish said quietly, we see if humans can be as wise as you are kind. They formed a line between the settlement and Marcus's cabin, blocking the path. Soldiers jumped out and took defensive positions behind their vehicles. Commander Sarah Reeves stepped forward, her hand resting on her weapon. She was a tall woman with gray hair and hard eyes that had seen too many conflicts. She looked at the Vakari warriors with clear suspicion. Marcus Chen, she called out through a speaker, step away from the aliens slowly. We are here to protect you. We have protocols for this situation. You have 30 seconds to disperse before we consider this an act of war. Vakari warriors shifted nervously. Marcus stood in the middle, his arms spread wide. Stop, Marcus yelled. Everyone just stop. Commander, these warriors are not here to attack. They are here to honor me. I saved the chieftain's son yesterday. This is a ceremony, not an invasion. You saved one of them. This human showed mercy when he could have shown cruelty. He represents the best of his kind. We wish to honor him and perhaps learn if other humans share his heart. This goes against everything we know about your people. You have attacked our survey teams. You have destroyed our equipment. You build where we have asked you not to build. We defend what is ours. Why do your borders grow while ours shrink? What if we talked, Marcus suggested. Really talked, not through weapons and threats. What if leaders from both sides sat down together and discussed boundaries, resources, and peace? Not a diplomat. He simply wishes for peace. Marcus could see her mind working, weighing risks and possibilities. Finally, she touched her communication device. Reeves to Colony Command, she said. Requesting permission to establish dialogue with Vakari leadership. Situation is non-hostile. Repeat, non-hostile. No weapons in the meeting space. Tomorrow at noon. You have done something remarkable today, Corvathan, the chieftain said. You have opened a door that has been closed for too long. Whatever happens next, know that you have our gratitude and our friendship. I hope this leads to peace. You took a massive risk, Chen, she said. If this goes wrong, it will be on your head. You really believe they want peace? You need to come back to the colony and explain everything that happened, every detail. As Marcus gathered his belongings, he noticed Kresh standing at the edge of the tree line. The young Vakari raised his hand in farewell. Marcus raised his hand in return, a simple gesture between two people from different worlds. Marcus climbed into one of the colonial transports. As they drove toward the settlement, he looked back at his cabin one more time. The staff stood like silent guardians, marking the place where everything changed. Inside the colony, news of the incident had spread quickly. Settlers gathered in groups, talking in worried voices. Some looked angry, others looked afraid. A few looked curious. Marcus understood their reactions. Change was always frightening, even when it might lead to something better. The governor's office was in the central administration building. Marcus had never been there before. It was large and filled with maps of New Haven, showing every human settlement and surveyed territory. Governor Mitchell was a practical woman in her 50s who had built the colony from nothing. She listened to Marcus's story without interrupting. When he finished, she leaned back in her chair and looked at the ceiling. You have created either our greatest opportunity or our biggest problem, she said finally. I have not decided which yet. But I agree we must try. This meeting tomorrow will be historic. We need to be prepared. People who understand that this is not about winning, but about finding common ground. He had given water to a thirsty stranger, such a small thing. Now it had grown into something that could determine the future of two species. That night, Marcus could not sleep. He lay in the guest quarters of the administration building, staring at the dark ceiling. Tomorrow would bring the meeting. Tomorrow would show if his simple act of kindness could truly build a bridge between worlds, or if that bridge would collapse before it was even complete. The ancient stone circle stood on a flat plateau between human and Vakari territories. Massive stones, worn smooth by centuries of wind, formed a perfect ring. Marcus had surveyed this area months ago and noted the stones in his reports. He had wondered then who built them and why. Now he was about to find out. The human delegation arrived first. Governor Mitchell led the group, accompanied by Commander Reeves, 3 council members, and Marcus. They brought no weapons as agreed. The morning sun cast long shadows across the ancient stones. "This place feels old," one council member whispered. "Really old?" Movement at the far edge of the plateau caught his attention. The Vakari were arriving. Vakish led them, with Kresh at his side. Behind them came several elder Vakari wearing elaborate robes decorated with stones and feathers. They moved with dignity and grace. The two groups faced each other across the stone circle. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The wind whispered through the ancient stones, carrying the weight of the moment. Vakish stepped forward. "We thank you for coming. This circle was built by our ancestors many generations ago. It is a place of meeting and treaty, a place where enemies can become friends. Perhaps today we can find a better path. You humans arrived on our world without invitation. You take land that our people have walked for thousands of years. You disturb sacred places. You ignore our boundaries. We needed space for our people to live and grow. We meant no disrespect to your culture. You simply took. Perhaps your technology could not understand our signals, or perhaps you chose not to hear them. Both groups wanted safety for their families. Both wanted to preserve their way of life. Both feared being destroyed by the other. Finally, Vakish proposed something concrete. We can share this world, but there must be clear boundaries. Certain lands are sacred to us and must remain untouched. In return, we will not interfere with your settlements in other areas. We can map out territories that work for both peoples. We need them for our technology and survival. We know which plants are safe to eat. We know where water flows underground. We know how to predict the storm seasons. This information could save many human lives. We have seen its power. Many of our people die from diseases that you could cure easily. If we share our knowledge of this land, you could share your knowledge of healing. That sounds like the beginning of a real partnership. The colonial authority back on Earth must approve any major agreements. People on both sides will die in a year if we do not have peace now. The meeting continued for another hour but made little progress. Harding raised objections to every proposal. He demanded studies and reports. He insisted nothing could happen without proper authorization from Earth. The Vakari grew increasingly frustrated. Finally, Vakish stood. "We came here in good faith. We offered friendship and cooperation. But I see that not all humans share Marcus Chen's heart. Some of you do not want peace. You want everything." Director Harding is simply following proper procedures. Both sides agreed to meet again in 1 week, but the mood was dark. As the Vakari departed, Kresh approached Marcus. "I believed your kindness represented all humans," Kresh said sadly. "Perhaps I was wrong. Give us another chance." He went to the Colonial Records office after hours. His surveyor credentials gave him access to most files. Marcus searched for information about Harding and found something disturbing. The director was heavily invested in a mining company called Nexus Corporation. That company had filed claims on several territories that happened to be Vakari sacred lands. If peace happened, those mining claims would be worthless. Harding had a financial interest in keeping the conflict going. Marcus printed the documents and brought them to Governor Mitchell the next morning. She read through them with growing anger. "This is a serious conflict of interest," she said. "Harding should have disclosed this. If humans and Vakari are at war, he can claim the mining territories are militarily necessary. We blamed the Vakari, but now I am not sure. What if someone wanted us to blame them? Someone who profits from conflict." "We need proof," Governor Mitchell said. Solid evidence before we can accuse someone of this magnitude. And our people deserve to know who has been manipulating them. But as he left the office, he realized something frightening. If Harding was willing to sabotage peace talks, what else might he do? Would he go further to protect his interests? Marcus had started this journey by offering water to a stranger. Now he might have to risk everything to protect the peace that simple act had made possible. A human shared water with a thirsty alien. By morning, his cabin was encircled by 200 tribal warriors. The investigation revealed troubling facts. Money trails led to mercenaries hired to attack both human and Vakari targets. Messages showed Harding coordinating with Nexus Corporation executives. The director had been actively working to prevent peace. Marcus met secretly with Kresh during this time, keeping the young Vakari informed. They developed trust and friendship beyond the original life debt. Kresh shared stories of his people's history. Marcus talked about human culture and values. They discovered their peoples had more similarities than differences. "My father is losing patience," Kresh admitted during one meeting. "Some of our warriors want to attack the colony. They believe humans cannot be trusted." Not in a small meeting with politicians, something bigger, something everyone can see. Instead of the stone circle, they would meet in the open plaza at the center of the human colony. It would be public. Both humans and Vakari could attend and witness everything. Director Harding objected strongly. "This is dangerous. We cannot allow armed aliens into our settlement." They had been told that Vakari representatives were coming for peace talks. Some people were angry, others were curious. Many were simply afraid of the unknown. Vakish arrived with 20 Vakari, including Kresh and the elders. They carried no weapons. The colonists whispered and pointed. Many had never seen a Vakari up close. The aliens looked intimidating but walked peacefully. Governor Mitchell stood on a platform in the center of the plaza. Marcus stood beside her, his heart pounding. Commander Reeves and her security team watched from the edges, ready for trouble. "People of New Haven Colony," the governor began. "We are here today to witness history. We have an opportunity to make peace with the native people of this world. But first, there is something you all need to know." His voice carried across the plaza through speakers. "He has financial interests in keeping humans and Vakari at war. He hired mercenaries to attack both our people and theirs, making each side blame the other." Harding stood near the platform, his face turning red with anger. "This is nonsense," Harding shouted. "Lies created by alien sympathizers. Financial records, communications, and testimony from one of the mercenaries you hired. You are under arrest for treason and conspiracy." Harding pointed the weapon at Marcus. "You ruined everything," Harding yelled. "That mining operation would have made billions, but you had to play hero with your stupid kindness." The young Vakari tackled Marcus to the ground just as Harding fired. The energy blast missed them by inches, scorching the platform. Vakari warriors rushed forward despite having no weapons. They used their bodies as shields, protecting the humans nearest to Harding. Colonial security surrounded the director and forced him to drop his weapon. He was taken into custody, still shouting about profits and opportunities. The plaza fell silent. Colonists stared at the Vakari warriors who had just protected them. The aliens had risked their lives for humans they barely knew. Vakish spoke, his translator broadcasting to everyone. "We came here in peace. When danger threatened, we protected those near us. This is who we are. We do not seek war. We seek to live in harmony with all beings. You did not have to, but you did." Children braver than their parents asked questions about the alien scales and markings. Vakari warriors knelt down to answer them gently. Marcus stood up with Kresh's help. "Thank you for saving me." Again, there are those who profit from conflict and those who benefit from peace. Director Harding wanted war because it made him rich. But these Vakari warriors chose peace even when it put them in danger. On behalf of the colony, I formally apologize for the actions of those who worked against peace. We want to build a real partnership with your people. Let us create the Accord of Shared Waters, named for the simple act that started all of this. Marcus Chen gave water to someone who needed it. That kindness will be remembered as the foundation of peace between our peoples. Territorial boundaries were established with input from both sides. Vakari sacred lands were protected. Human settlements were recognized. Trade agreements formed. Vakari taught humans about the planet's ecosystem. Humans shared medical technology that saved Vakari lives. A joint council was created with equal representation. Kresh and Marcus both served on it, helping bridge cultural gaps with their friendship. Schools began teaching both languages. Children from both species played together in mixed groups. Not everyone was happy with the changes. Some humans still distrusted the Vakari. Some Vakari believed the old ways were being lost. But the majority on both sides saw the benefits of cooperation. Marcus returned to his cabin on the frontier. The ceremonial staff still stood around his property, but now they symbolized something greater than personal honor. They represented the moment when two worlds began to understand each other. Visitors came regularly. Both humans and Vakari traveled to see the place where peace began. Marcus welcomed them all, sharing his story over and over. He always emphasized the same point. "I did not do anything special," he would say. "I saw someone who needed help and I helped them, that is all." If more people did small acts of kindness, imagine what the world could become. Marcus had introduced Kresh to human music and art. "Do you ever think about that night?" Kresh asked. "When you found me dying? All because you gave water to a stranger. When you give one, you are giving the other." Marcus had started with nothing but a bucket of water and a choice to help someone in need. That simple decision had grown into something beautiful and lasting. It proved that the smallest acts of compassion could create waves of change that touched countless lives. The well stood as a reminder, not a monument to Marcus, but a symbol of what anyone could do. One person, one moment, one choice to be kind instead of cruel, to give instead of take, to build bridges instead of walls. That was the true strength of humanity, and perhaps of all intelligent beings. Not in weapons or technology, but in the simple, powerful act of showing mercy to those who need it most. Marcus smiled as he looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, other beings lived on other worlds. Maybe someday humans and Vakari together would meet them, and maybe they would offer them water just as Marcus had done. Because that is what good people do. They help, they care, they choose kindness. And sometimes that changes everything. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Sonnet 4.5.